Opentype fonts are a new scalable font format from Adobe and Microsoft. The Opentype uses the general SFNT structure of a TrueType font, but it adds several smart font options that enhance the font's typographic and language support capabilities. It also uses double byte encoding system, which allow the font to contain more than 65,000 glyphs instead of the basic 256. And remember, a glyph is an individual symbol for a character. So Opentype fonts contain a bunch more information in it. They really have some beautiful and interesting, other alterations built into the fonts. Opentype fonts can contain entire character sets for true drawn small caps, fractions, swashes, ligatures, and they support accented characters as well. The Opentype fonts are cross-platform, but if you get an Opentype font, it's going to work seamlessly on Mac, on PC, on Unix, on Linux. Opentype fonts may contain several optical size variations as well. And you might want to note that all Opentype fonts contain extra characters, so look for the Pro in the Adobe font family. These usually contain extra characters and they're usually Opentype. Here in this example, the Zapfino Opentype font face, in this example 123, the fish is sniffly, there are actually 13 variations between the first group and the second. So you might want to pause your movie and see if you can identify all 13 differences. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to show you what they are. If I roll over, you can see that anything that's turned red is actually something that's different. So if you notice the 1, 2, 3, they're actually, this font is set at the exact same size, but the style of the numbers is slightly smaller and it's a little bit different. The bullet points obviously are different. If we take a look at the T and the H, they're different styles. This F is a different style. The H on the end is a different style. The I is a little bit different. And my S is clearly different. The N and the Y are actually different as well. So it's kind of fun that there are all these like hidden treasures located in the fonts. An Opentype font may include optical variations. A font should not just be enlarged or reduced on the screen. The font really needs to be redesigned. An Opentype font may contain a redesigned version of the typeface for use in small sizes. These are called caption, and they're generally reserved for 4 to 8 point type size. They usually contain a regular version, which is used for body copy. It's about 9 to 12 or 13 point. They usually contain a subhead size, which is 14 to 24 point, a display size, which is 25 to 70 point size. Smaller type needs to be a little heavier and it needs to have more letter spacing than the larger type. The larger type needs to be a little bit thinner, like thinner thins, and less letter spacing. So if we look at the examples shown to the right, you can see the variations. The various versions are all being shown at 21 points, so you can see the variations of the actual letter forms, but this is all 21 point Kronos Pro font, but you can see the difference between the regular, the light, the caption, the display, subhead. Display and subhead are a little bit lighter than the caption. Remember, caption is used at the very small point sizes, so it needs to be a little heavier. Here's my italic, and the italic actually is not just slanted, all the letters are actually redesigned. And here's my semi-bold and my bold. So it's kind of fun that you have all these options available to you. Opentype Glyphs. Opentype usually contains additional glyphs. A glyph is an individual symbol for a character. The first column to the right is the font Kronos Pro, the one we were just looking at. This font has 5 variations for the letter O, and you can see how this can change the look of a word. So all these are written with Kronos Pro, but you can see how the word looks much different depending on which O I decided to use. Each variation in this is considered a glyph. Opentype may contain special styled figures, which are numbers, and they can often improve readability of text. Over here you can see that I'm showing fractional measurement. So this is written in Bembo. The first, of course, uses the default numbers. So these are just regular size fonts, the default numbers. In the second example though, I have a fractional measurement that's written with a glyph for 3/4. And you can see how much easier it is to read and how much more in proportion the value actually seems when I'm using the appropriate designed glyph to represent 3/4. If we think of display versus regular, display faces are ones that are intended for use at larger point sizes. You can see from my example over here to the right that the display face is more elegant and more refined. The letter forms and spacing attributes have been specifically designed for larger type sizes. They're not just scaled up, it's not the same thing. You can notice how the details which help to create the more elegant look. It has thin, thick contrasts in the strokes. So if we actually look at the letters, you can see how the thins are much, much thinner than the thin portions up here. The letter spacing and the crispness of the terminals is definitely a little more elegant, and it looks a little bit different. Many display faces come in families of regular, italic, bold, and bold italic. So don't use a display face for body copy or text at small sizes. The delicate refined strokes and serifs will become too weak when reduced down. For the body copy example right here, when you have body copy size, and here I've set it at 9 point, the display face, I know you might not be able to read this, but it's not terribly important. If you just look though, the display face tends to lose its elegance. The readability is actually sacrificed a little bit. The serifs and the thin portions of the strokes become too thin, and the letter spacing is too tight, so the font family loses its strength and readability. Where if you come up here, this is just the regular Adobe Jensen Pro set at 9 point, and it's much easier to read set at the regular size, set at 9 point right here. So keep those things in mind when you're using Opentype fonts, and definitely use the different variations of the font appropriately. So don't use those display faces for body copy, and conversely, don't use your regular style of font for headlines and subheads and things that are going to appear larger.